Hello, I'm Nitya Rani, and today we are going to be talking about managing the millennial employees. Now, who are the millennials and why do we want to talk about managing them? The millennials are nothing but the Gen Y, and the term Gen Y was first coined by William Strauss and Howe in their book when they described the teenagers who were present in the year 1992 to 1993, and they coined the term because they wanted to separate that generation from Generation X. Now, Generation Y, or the millennials, as we are referring them today in our slide, is our teenagers who were born between the years 1980s to the 2000, and they follow the Gen X. Now, there are numerous characteristics of Gen Y, and based on these characteristics, they also have several names. Based on globalization, the rapid technological advancement, and increasing demographic diversity, they have various names such as Nexters, Nexus Generation, and Millennials and Gen Y, so on and so forth. So, what are the different generations at the workplace? The first are the veterans who are more or less retired. They were born between 1922 to 1943. And the next are the baby boomers who are now occupying the senior management positions in organizations, and they were born between 1944 to 1960. The next generation are the Gen Xers who were born from 1961 to 1980, and the recent entrants into the workforce are the Gen Y or the millennials who were born between 1982 to 2000. So why is it important to study about Gen Y? Now, Gen Y is one of the primary forces that is affecting business today. And why is that? Because demographically, Gen Y represents one of the biggest cohorts or the biggest segment of group that is about to enter a workplace. And their marked difference in behavior and characteristics from other generations will cause a rapid change in the workforce, and also cause a lot of conflict and problems amongst them and the members of other generations. And in India particularly, the economic survey has predicted that India will become one of the youngest nations by 2020, and the potential as well as the drawback of having such a large number of young entrants in the workforce cannot be ignored. So it is absolutely essential to know about Gen Y, who they are, and how we are going to manage them. So, how are millennials generally perceived? Now, millennials are generally perceived as being autonomous, entitled, imaginative, self-absorbed, defensive, abrasive, myopic, unfocused, and indifferent. Now, what do these all words mean? Actually, these terms are derived from the book Managing the Millennials, Discover the Core Competencies. I have given the reference at the end of the slide. And each of these words are used to characterize millennials. These words were actually given by managers who actually manage millennials at the workplace. So what does the term autonomous mean? Autonomous means that the Gen Y employees want to do work as they want, when they want, and how they want. Now, this could definitely pose a serious problem to organizations which are very hierarchical and bureaucratic and have a standardized way of doing things. Now, millennials also are often portrayed as being entitled. They feel that they are entitled to quick promotions. They feel they are entitled to appreciation every time they do a good job, and every time something good comes their way, they feel that they deserve it. And every time a criticism comes their way, they feel very defensive. They are also very imaginative and creative, and this could be a result of the change in schooling system, because as the boomers and Gen Xers were passing through school, the schooling was completely different, and as Gen Ys were passing through school, there was a lot of encouragement and support, a very less amount of punishment and negative reinforcement that was given on to them, and hence they often feel free to be very imaginative and enthusiastic and creative. They are often characterized as being self-absorbed. They talk only about themselves. They are self-centered. They often have parents who give them undivided attention and are always focused on them, as a result of which they feel that even at the workplace, the supervisors and bosses should be focused on them. They get defensive, especially when faced with criticism. They do not take negative feedback well at all. In fact, in the book that I've referenced, there is a case where one of young interns in the hospital tries to administer a medicine to a patient, and the head nurse actually walks by and notices that the young intern is giving the wrong kind of medicine, at which point she stops the intern and then gives her talking down to, telling her how dangerous it could be and how she needs to be more careful, and to which the intern tells her that she is actually doing it the wrong way, wherein she needs to give her a positive reinforcement first before giving her the negative feedback. So the head nurse tells her nice shoes and then continues with giving her the negative feedback. So that is one of the funny anecdotes that was given in the book. And the millennials are often perceived as being abrasive, meaning they often develop their communication through online chats and while talking over the phone or through SMS or internet, and they often use very direct and very curt way of speaking, which can be perceived as being very abrasive, which can hurt the feelings of not only their supervisors but also their other colleagues. Now, often this causes the supervisors to get offended, and we talk a lot about in the coming slides. We talk about how that can be avoided. Millennials are often very myopic in the fact that they're very narrow-sighted, and once they get their heart set on something, they talk only about that, and they take a path often without considering the consequences of their actions. They are also looked upon as being unfocused, a direct result of their multitasking capability, where they often want to do several things at once and then do seem as if they are not focused on one particular task and are just randomly moving from one task to another. They also look very indifferent, wherein they don't care, they don't give importance to jobs, and several managers often say that they don't feel the importance of showing up on time or the necessity of a salary, due to which they just are very indifferent in their entire attitude. Now, one important question when we talk about millennials and Gen X and boomers is it not that every employee or every human being in a sense behaves a certain way at a younger age, or is it really a function of generation? For example, one might argue that every 20-year-old is kind of irresponsible or abrasive, and it is not really a function of them belonging to a particular generation, but rather the fact that they are just young or a little older, or depends on their age. Now, there are several theories that address these issues. The first is maturational theory, which says that employees' behavior are a result of their age only, which means that just as physiologically we develop and at a certain age a baby starts to crawl and then stands up and then starts to walk, similarly at every age there is an age appropriate behavior that every human being employs. Now, to illustrate this theory, I would tell you that if at age 3 a child is caught telling a lie, now that lie would not be taken very seriously because young children are often known to be fibbing. They just make up stories. So it's a funny, it might be taken as a funny anecdote and shared with other relatives. But now imagine the same child at age 18 is telling a lie to the parents. Now, would it be taken in the same vein, as in would the parents also take it in the same comic light, or would they take it very seriously as a character flaw? Most often it would be taken very seriously, and often the teenager would be punished. Now, this is an example how at every age an age appropriate behavior is a result of the physiological and psychological development as a function of age, not generation. The next theory is generational theory, which states that every generation has its own generation appropriate behavior. Now, to illustrate this, let us take this example where, uh, say, a baby boomer or even a veteran, when they were younger, say at age 25, they were expected to get married and have children and go to work and run their own lives practically. Now, what about a Gen Y person? A Gen Y person often at age 25 may not be ready to commit to a relationship, okay, may not be ready to get married, may often stay with their parents, and may not even have a particular profession in mind, may not even be fixed on the career that they want to follow. And all this is considered okay. It's not considered abnormal, it's not considered weird. Whereas a few years ago, if at age 25 a person said they do not want to commit or get down and get married, then that would have been considered, that person would have been considered a social outcast. So that is the result of every generation having their own norms and rules of acceptable behavior. The third is life course theory, which also illustrates the fact that every generation is different. Okay, life course theory says that every generation is affected by the defining moments that happen during the course of their lives. And when do these defining moments actually shape our behavior? Now, when these defining moments, say the 9/11 attacks or an important leader being assassinated, all these affect us most when we are in our teenage and in our early 20s. So, depending on how old you were when a particular event occurred, that would shape your behavior for the rest of your life, which in essence means that every generation has different defining moments and hence different behaviors. So we can safely assume that every generation does have different norms and different behaviors. And today we are going to be talking only about the millennials. Now, what is the difference between an effective and a challenged manager? Now, the effective manager is somebody who can adapt, who has self-efficacy, who has confidence, who knows the nature of power to be used, also has the energy, and believes that the success of the Gen Y lies in their hands. The challenged manager, in essence, talks about not about how they can adapt to the situation, but how the other millennials or other generation employees need to adapt to their way of working. They believe that everything is out of their hands, that how other people behave is not up to them. They sometimes do not have confidence, so they use punishment when people behave opposing to what they want them to do. They often do not use relational power, where they do not build relationships and use that power to conform behavior. Rather, they use positional power, wherein they say that I am your manager, so you have to do what what I tell you to do. And energy is where the effective managers feel very energetic when they're working with younger employees, whereas the challenged managers feel that the 20 somethings or the younger employees drain them of their energy and made them in a sense feel only older. And the effective managers felt very happy when the millennials succeeded and felt that they had a good role to play in their success, whereas the challenged managers often saw the millennial success as a threat to their own. So what are the core competencies for managing today's workforce? The core competencies can be divided into three parts. The first is adapting, communicating, and envisioning. So what do you mean by adapting? Often the millennials are characterized as being autonomous, meaning that they want work-life balance, they want to do their own thing as and when they want to do it. And the core competency for managing such autonomous employees is flexing, where you give them the opportunity to do their own schedules, or you give them the opportunity to make their own work. But it must be realized that flexing can only be taken so far, that you cannot give them the entire day off as and when they please. And if you make the millennials realize that this is the work that is to be done, and when they have to deliver it, more often you can give them the flexibility to schedule their own things and then go about doing things their own way. The second one is influencing the entitled. Now, how do you influence a person who already feels that every good thing that is happening to them is what they deserve, and nothing difficult or wrong should come in their path? Now, how you influence them is essentially listening to them, being empathetic, and seeing their point of view, and then making them feel that you are on their side when you are talking to them, and then influencing them. The third is cultivating the imaginative. In recent times, the role of creativity and being innovative is as a core competency has been stressed, and millennials are often seen as very creative and innovative, and you only need to cultivate that behavior for them to succeed in organizations. The next one is engaging the self-absorbed. Often millennials look upon only themselves and are self-focused. Now, engaging them involves a lot of initiatives where you can forecast when they're going to get bored, what kind of activities they would like. In fact, at Google, there are Google and Microsoft and so many new companies are now catering to the millennial employees, where they set up the whole facility so that these people don't feel bored and they have a sense of fun at work. You have to disarm the defensive, and this is where you talk to them when you're giving them negative feedback in a way that is very direct and informal, and you take them aside, you explain to them what is their mistake, and then you reassure them that the relationship with the boss is not broken, because that is very important to them, because relationship with their parents has been a very important part of their life, and so relationship with their supervisor is also very important to them. And then you continue the relationship as it was before, and that is how you disarm them from being defensive. You have to self-differentiate yourself from the abrasive, meaning you cannot take things that they say very personally. You have to differentiate your role from your personal self, and you have to understand that when they make cutting remarks or are being rude, it is not about you, but your position that they are attacking. The next one is broadening the myopic. You have to make sure that they are not very narrow-minded, and they are not focused on only what they have to do. In essence, you have to make sure that they realize the consequences of their actions, for which you have to teach them models of consequential thinking, where they have to understand the consequence of every one of their actions. Maybe even the 5 whys of when somebody refuses what they want, you ask 5 times why would somebody refuse what you want, and is it for your own good, and things like that. In the end, they arrive to a conclusion where they realize that their reasoning may have been defective from the beginning. You direct the unfocused. You realize that they are multitaskers by nature. They've been born with technology, so they are going to be unfocused. And when you want them to be focused, make sure they realize the importance of the task, how it is important to the organization and also to them. And you make sure you communicate openly and freely, and make sure you reach them. Motivating the indifferent. You use a lot of reinforcement, positive reinforcement, talk to them in encouraging terms, and also it is important to realize the essence of intrinsic motivation while motivating them, because you have to know what is it that they want and reward them in a way that they value. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So these are, in a gist, the core competencies for managing today's workforce. In the next presentation, I'll take it up in detail.